Hi, good afternoon. My name is Mary Price. Thanks for joining us here for the Student Scholar Orientation for the Service Learning Assistant Scholarship Program. I'm the program director for this scholarship program, and my colleague here, Amy Shackelford, is my graduate assistant. And the two of us together are going to be walking through this presentation today. We're your two primary contacts for the program, and we'll give you a little bit more information about that. So everybody say hi to Amy. Okay, this is like being recorded, so you actually have to say, hi, Amy. Hi. There we go, thanks. Thanks, Amy. If you're joining us online, Amy's going to be moderating, so if you have questions, you can pose them. This presentation will be available on the CSL website following, actually it'll be available tomorrow. So if you weren't able to attend live today or to sign on virtually, you'll be able to access it from our website. This presentation is accurate for the fall, for anyone who's funded for this fall, for this spring, or for the summer 2015. So the expectation is that you'll attend orientation once per academic year, so any of those 3 semesters. So if you have a change of award or you have an academic year award, you don't come back in the spring. We will offer another session or push this recording out. You're not required to attend more than once. Right? So what are we going to do today? So we're going to talk about various contacts you have within the Center for Service and Learning. We're going to review program goals and expectations for you as a student scholar in this program. We're going to talk about, within the context of expectations, what the workflow looks like. And you're going to be pushed out an orientation assignment that you can either complete here today or that you can take home and complete at your leisure. It just needs to be done by the 12th of September. And then if you have any questions, there'll be time to answer those questions as well. So contact information for Mary, for me, and for Amy is available here on this slide. Feel free to call the Center for Service and Learning. Our main line is 278-2662, or you're free to email us. We're definitely your first point of contact after your mentor. So again, within this program, your primary relationship is going to be with your faculty or staff mentor. But if you have any questions about other things related to the scholarship program, you can start with us. There's 2 additional people who you may need to reach out to over the course of the semester. If you have questions about your actual movement of funds of your scholarship, Leslie Sweet is the administrative specialist in our office. Her contact information is on the slide. She's the person that once we get all of your program materials and orientation materials in, we contact her and say, hey, now you can push this scholarship over to the bursar's office. So she's actually the one who presses the button. So she's an important person to know. Mansi Singh is our communications specialist. If either Amy or myself are away from the office, I get called into a lot of meetings, and Amy's only available in the center 20 hours a week. So if you have an urgent question and you can't get to either one of us, Mansi is the next person I would go to ask questions generally about the program. She knows a lot about the program, and if it's urgent and she needs to find us, she can do that. So her information is available. For those of you who have not been funded through the scholarship program before, or you've never participated in a Center for Service and Learning event, you may not know where the Center for Service and Learning is located. It is located on the 2nd floor of Hine Hall. That's directly connected to the University Tower. So if you cross the gerbil tube, if you know what a gerbil tube is on this campus, you know you've been here for a while. You come out of the business via corridor and you cross that tube that crosses Michigan. We're the first suite of offices on the 2nd floor once you get into Hine Hall. And you're welcome to join us and come and stop by and visit. We have candy for those who are looking for snacks when you're over there. Where to find us online? We have built up a site on the CSL website. It's always been there, but we've added enhancements. For those of you who are returning to the program, there will be no part of the SLA scholarship program that is housed in OnCourse. We are completely out of OnCourse. Everything you need to do will be accessible through this website. So please do bookmark this page. If you have your laptop with you, go ahead and do so now. There's a site navigation. We're actually on the home page here, but on the left-hand side where you see that red arrow, those are the sub-navigation links. And one of them says Student Program Components. It's that student programs set of links that you're going to want to dig into, because that's how you're going to complete all of your program expectations and get background information. So what is the Sam H. Jones Community Service Scholarship Program? So you've probably heard 2 terms. You may have heard, hey, I'm a Service Learning Assistant Scholar, and then What? It's part of the Sam H. Jones Community Service Scholarship Program. Well, the two are related. Actually, the Service Learning Assistant Scholarship Program is one of 10 scholarship programs that are sponsored by the Center for Service and Learning, and they all come out of a pool of funds that are associated with the Sam H. Jones Community Service Scholarship Program. And so the bigger question then becomes is who is Sam H. Jones, and why are these scholarship programs named in his honor? Sam H. Jones is an important historical figure in Indianapolis for those of you who may not be from Indianapolis. He was the first president of the Indianapolis Urban League. In fact, he established the chapter of the Urban League, which is a national organization that fights for equal and civil rights. And during the late 1960s, 70s, and into the 80s, he was a strong advocate across the city. He was instrumental in kind of keeping race relations in check in the late 60s when Chicago and LA were having very, very divisive periods. And certainly Indiana has its own challenging history around race. He was a strong advocate for dialogue. He also was a champion for reducing homelessness, improving access to health care, education, and housing. And so in that spirit of trying to support social change, the scholarship programs that have his name are really about that sort of relationship between the university and the community. To what extent can the university be an asset and a resource to the community to support social change, to improve the conditions that we live in as community members, right? So what's that relationship? And so it's in that sense that the SLA program is part of that. So you may not know much about the Sam H. Jones Community Service Scholarship set of programs, but without you, and there's a couple hundred of you across all 10 of these programs, the university would not be able to sustain the level of community engagement that it currently conducts. Your contributions to courses, your contributions to co-curricular service, your contributions to community-based research projects are essential. You are not only an asset to the campus, you're an asset to the community, and you're an important source of creativity and innovation. And so it's important to recognize that you bring something really, really important to the table that the university could not accomplish its teaching, research, and service missions without. The SLAs are the largest of the 10 Sam H. Jones Community Service Scholarship programs. Every year we fund roughly between 100 and 115 students. Funding, though, is funneled through faculty and staff. So in any given year, it could be between 60 and 80 faculty that get support, scholarship support, and then identify you as a student to be part of this program. So it is a very large program. SLAs, as I started to mention, are different from the other Sam H. Jones Scholarship programs. So if you applied for one of the other 9, you would be the direct applicant. So you would have submitted an application. In this case, you didn't submit an application, right? Somebody approached you, a faculty member, a staff member, said, hey, I have this scholarship. Would you be interested in X opportunity? And that's one of the key differences, is the focal point of the Service Learning Assistant Scholarship Program is actually on faculty and staff work. How can you as students contribute to a faculty or staff member's community-engaged teaching, research, partnership work, capacity building if they're trying to grow community engagement in the curriculum or the co-curriculum in a department or a school, or to their professional community service, right? And so it's in any of those domains. Funds are awarded on a competitive basis. It's not uncommon for students to partner with a faculty or staff member and stay with that faculty or staff member beyond a single semester or a single academic year. One thing I want to alert you to is that the faculty and staff, when they apply, they're not guaranteed funding, right? So it's a competitive process, and there's the chance that their application may not be continued. So there have been cases where we've had a couple of faculty and staff that have had long-term relationships with students, and their application didn't get continued. And that was a bit jarring for the student because they're not part of that application process. So just wanted to kind of make sure you guys were aware of that. Any questions yet? Okay. So question for each of you. So do you happen to know what type of project you're going to be working on yet? So you're both working on service. Is it part of a course? If it's part of a course, then it might also be a teaching award, right? So again, part of it is the project you're working on. It could be a volunteer project, but if it's part of a course, it may also be tied to the teaching goals of that course. So your faculty mentor may have applied under more than one category. And it's okay to know that. You may actually want to start to ask them questions about what did they apply for? You know, what's their side of this story, right? That may not have been something that you thought about before. In your case, you're doing something again. Yeah, right. So you're part of sustaining a partnership project between the Department of Public History and I don't know whether it's going to be which museum it's going to be. Okay. All right. And so there's different categories of award that faculty and staff apply for, and the range of projects that you may be contributing to across those categories is huge. Some of them may be focused on public health and doing community-based research. Some of them may have an internship flavor to them. Some of them may be facilitating reflection assignments or organizing community service projects associated with a course. Some of them may be collecting oral histories. It's just there's a wide range of experiences that you may be drawn into. And the more questions you ask the faculty, the deeper and more enriching experience you're likely to have as you go forward. Wanted to give you a little bit of a background on the application process. Again, because this isn't something you guys see. Just so you know, because sometimes you're going, well, why is it taking so long? So-and-so approached me a while back. Sometimes our wonderful faculty and staff will approach a student prior to actually getting funding. We're trying to discourage them from doing that, again, because it's a competitive process. They can tell you that they've applied, but they shouldn't be promising you an award until they've actually gotten an award letter through our office. The faculty and staff member applies. Their proposals are reviewed. The Center for Service and Learning makes a funding decision. An award letter is actually sent out electronically to that faculty or staff member. Faculty and staff, they also must attend orientation, which we've already had for them earlier, and the recorded version's online. During orientation, they complete a mentor letter of agreement. You may or may not have seen your letter of agreement come out through electronically. Have each of you seen? Okay, if you haven't seen one, one or two things has happened. Most likely is your mentor hasn't completed their letter of agreement and completed their Identify Your Student Scholar form. There are two key forms that the mentors must do as part of their orientation. If they don't complete both of those forms, particularly at orientation, particularly the Identify Your Student Scholar, we can't push out any information to you, right? So you need that student mentor, that student scholar letter of agreement, but they need to do their work first. So if you haven't received yours, talk to your mentor. The other thing that may have happened is it may not have gone to the correct email. Yesterday, Amy sent out a batch. So go in and check your official IUPUI email account and just make sure that maybe something didn't go into junk email from that, right? So, and if you didn't receive one, you came today and you didn't receive one, go ahead and contact our office after you've talked to your mentor, because if your mentor hasn't completed those forms, that would be the most likely explanation. Part of them actually completing the form is them having a conversation about you, regarding your eligibility. There's a minimum GPA requirement, a minimum enrollment requirement, and then also you probably should have a conversation with your mentor about what your load is for this semester. Many of you have multiple scholarships. Some of them may also have service commitments. You may be working, taking a full or above full-time course load. You may have other outside commitments. And so having that conversation at the front end to identify, is what you're needing from me this semester, this academic year, am I going to, as a student, be able to offer that contribution to you? Questions to ask would include things like how much evening time is this going to require? So if you're working another job and there's a mismatch either with your course schedule or other outside commitments, now's the time to identify that. The more challenging conversations is when this happens in October, into the semester, because there are bigger consequences. So once your mentor has identified you, you've had that initial conversation, they've completed their forms and formally identified you as their student scholar or as their prospective scholar, we send you an email inviting you to complete that letter of agreement. Once you complete that letter of agreement and or come in for student scholar orientation, right, those two things can obviously happen in reverse order. You submit your LOA, you complete orientation. Part of completing orientation is not only being here and watching the presentation, but there's a reflection assignment associated with this presentation. And so completing that and submitting it electronically is what completes your orientation component, right? So not just attendance. Once we get both your completed orientation materials, which includes LOA, orientation reflection, and your mentor's LOA, right, and identify your student scholar form, that's when we can push out the scholarship dollars. If anything delays those things happening, there's going to be delays in the disbursement of your scholarship award. So what we tend to see is students are on the ball. They get it done. They have a vested interest in getting it done. Sometimes where we see things lagging behind is actually with the mentors. So I would encourage each of you to make sure that you're just in regular communication with your mentor. And if they're having difficulty, if you want, I can actually show you on the CSL website where the relevant forms are for them to complete, because they're available on the website. Important things to note, scholarship funds are dispersed to your bursar account first. So if you owe any money, the scholarship's going to pay what is owed on your account first. We've already covered that. What SLAs are not? This can be kind of a mucky situation because on the one hand, you're doing all kinds of activities. Sometimes it seems like an internship and it looks and sounds and feels like work. Oh my, did I say that? I did say that. Yes, it looks and feels and sounds like work. The Service Learning Assistance Scholarship Program is not a work-based activity. You're not an employee of IUPUI. This isn't paid funding for work. It's a merit-based scholarship, right? So you're not employees of IUPUI, right? Your participation, your contribution, your volunteer activity, and the learning that is generated through those contributions is the source of merit, right? So it's not work. So if you don't get funding or your funding is delayed, going over to the bursar's office and saying, hey, I didn't get paid for my service, that's not going to get you in because it is considered a scholarship. And it's an important distinction to make. Is it pay for work or is it a merit-based scholarship program with a service component? And it is the latter. Any questions about that? So as I mentioned, funds go to your bursar account. You're not earning hourly wages. Important things to note, the scholarship funds, when they actually hit your account, they're not intended to support individual student research projects. Remember, you're a part of a faculty member or staff member's project. Now, might there be components that are generated out of that broader scope of work that you may end up taking a thread off and doing an honors thesis on or doing a master's thesis on? Absolutely and certainly. But these funds are intended to advance the faculty or staff members' community engaged work. Also, the funds, if you happen to be working with an international service learning course or an international community-based research project, faculty are not supposed to be applying to give funds to support individual travel for students to engage in study abroad or that. Again, it's really to support the faculty or staff member. Financial aid package. This is a scholarship. What that means is it can impact your total scholarship, your total financial aid package for the academic year. So before you sign off on anything, I would recommend going and having a conversation or calling over to the financial aid office and asking about what's the impact of accepting X award going to be. All right, because there's the potential you could end up owing money to the institution, right, if you already had some disbursements paid out to you, either in the form of loans or other scholarships, right? So just check on that before. If you have a balance on your bursar account and you're waiting for scholarship dollars to hit, go ahead and try to pay the minimum amount due. You don't want to get behind on late payments, and because we have to wait until the mentor's information's in as well as yours, depending upon what your mentor's activity is, you could be held back. It could be middle of September before the funds hit your account, and obviously you're probably already getting bills. Any questions about that? Hi, welcome. No, it's so good. No, it's good. Welcome. So again, just a reminder, factors that could delay the transfer of your scholarship into your bursar's account: when your mentor completes their paperwork, right? Sending us an email to say that you're going to be their SLA doesn't work. We have, again, as I mentioned, we have too many students, too many faculty. It has to come through that identify your student scholar form, and they have to complete their orientation requirements. So until they do those two things, we can't bring you into the program. It also depends upon when you complete that letter of agreement. It's an electronic request, so again, that should be coming to your official IUPUI email. Due to FERPA regulations, we should not be communicating with you, and we cannot send you any official paperwork to a Gmail account or any other non-IUPUI related account, so just to note that. Another thing that impacts is when we actually get your information and we can push that award out. On average, it takes between 10 to 14 business days for that money to hit your account. Sometimes it's less, but just expect that once the money's been pushed out, it may take roughly 2 weeks for it to hit. The final person that has the say in when the scholarship funds get pushed out is actually not the CSL. So we can have them transferred to the bursar account, but it's actually the scholarship money, the scholarship office that applies the funds to your account. So it's a multi-step process. And delays in any of these things can put the award back. Now, usually if everybody's on the ball, it's a pretty speedy process. But again, there are cases where the awards have been delayed. Questions about that? Okay. All right. So, what do you have to do to be part of this program? Letter of agreement, right? We've already said that a bazillion times. Complete student scholar orientation once per year. Again, inclusive of the summer semester. So if you have a different faculty member who drives you into a different project for the summer, because we fund service learning assistant scholarships in the summer, and it's either an extension of your current award or it's part of a completely different award, you don't have to attend orientation again. You've done it once per year. There's a professional development requirement that's part of the scholarship program. We're going to spend some time talking about that in just a few minutes. There's an activity plus a reflection narrative. In this case, it's been adapted a little bit for this year, and you do one of those per semester of scholarship. Again, we'll talk a little bit more in detail in just a minute. At the end of the award period, there's a reporting piece, and part of that reporting piece includes completing an informed consent form, taking a post-survey, and then there's a reflection narrative on your scope of work or your scope of service and contribution over the course of the award period that you complete. Information on the prompts and all of this are actually housed on the CSL website, and I'll show you that in a minute. So again, I'm on the CSL website here. So there's a whole section of the site that's about the expectations for the mentor's involvement, and then there's your involvement, so student program components. If I click there, it basically restates some of the things that are in your LOA and what I've already stated today. And then if you scroll down, it talks about the 3 requirements. So orientation, right? If I click here, it gives me information about deadlines, and I can also go straight to the orientation site. And the orientation assignment that I'm going to ask you to work on once we're done here is accessible right through this link, right? But I start back to the student program components, go down to the second link, professional development. So for each of these, this is the only page you need to bookmark. From this page, you can get to everything. You click on this accordion link for professional development activity. It gives you deadlines. We'll talk about those in a minute, as well as instructions if your faculty mentor or your staff mentor wants you to use that particular written prompt. And we'll talk about that in a minute. The third piece is the final report. Again, deadlines. Deadlines vary depending upon whether you have a single semester scholarship, an academic year scholarship, a spring-only scholarship, or a summer scholarship. So those of you who are in the room today, what type of scholarship award do you have? Do you know? You have academic year. All of you have academic year. All right, so the relevant deadlines for you are going to be Friday, May 2nd, or May 1st. Can I read that? Friday, May 1st, right? So you'll do the professional development activity, and in conversation with your mentor, there may be a reflection component with that, right? And so we have some recommended deadlines to complete the professional development activity, right? And complete the reflection. But all that has to be sorted out with your mentor. The final award report narrative, those are hard and fast deadlines. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about what you need to do for that. Right now, when you want to access the link, this will be a red, highlighted red hyperlink. Right now it's closed because nobody can report anything, right? Questions yet? Such a quiet group. All right. So one thing to think about with this program is that there's a lot of benefits and takeaways for you, not just from a financial standpoint, but one of the things that's really important for, I think for the student experience, whether you're a graduate student or an undergraduate student, is having those opportunities to have meaningful mentoring relationships. This program provides an opportunity for you to develop a deeper relationship with a faculty or a staff member or even a community partner, depending upon the type of project you're going to be associated with. And so thinking about what that mentoring relationship might look like, what you really want to take away from this relationship, and how you may benefit from a resume building standpoint, from a learning standpoint, from a networking standpoint, I think it's something important to think about at the front end, because that may shape the kind of conversations you have with your various mentors. And there may be more than one in this case. You may, in some cases, the faculty member who's applied may identify a secondary person, and we call those secondary people co-mentors, who may be taking on more of the supervision of the project that you happen to be contributing to. And so if you're identified as a co-mentor, there's expectations for co-mentors in the program as well. But so who may be a mentor to you may be broader than the official person listed as the mentor, but just thinking about what might those relationships look like. I put this slide in here is that in the context of how universities work with communities or contribute to community well-being, some of what this program is about, again, speaking back to Sam H. Jones, is about supporting democratic culture. And I don't mean democracy as a political institution necessarily. I mean how we interact as human beings, how we build community, right? And there's certain attributes of democratic culture, broadly stated, that we want to try to put into place. And so what does that look like in the context of a service learning course? What does that look like in the context of developing a community service project, or if you're doing a community-based research project or a civic internship? What does that look like? What does task sharing mean? How do you bring lay people into the process? What's the relationship? What voice do community partners have in your class? What type of reflection, what type of analysis of the experience are we doing? How are we promoting reciprocity in terms of public problem solving? Is it us as universities with all the answers and we go and take those to community? Or do we invite a variety of voices from the community to define what the question is, to define what the scope of the project may be, to define what meaningful outcomes may be? So it's a counter-normative, and what I mean by that is it's not the normal way we do things, way of thinking about teaching, research, scholarship in the context of what we do as universities. And that's what makes this a bit of a kind of different type of experience. And what you're going to find is that each of your faculty and staff members, faculty, staff, mentors, have really different perspectives on that. And some of that's framed by their discipline, some of that's framed by their own personal experience and history. But as you two come together with other community groups and organizations, you may be prompted to kind of go, well, what's this all about? What are we really doing here? What does this make sense? To what extent is the way I want to approach the way we work with communities different or in line with what my mentor is asking about? And those are all really good opportunities to reflect about your role, your relationship to society, how you think education and what its role to contributing to society and to public problem solving looks like, sounds like, feels like. If you intend to be a researcher, right, what is the role of research in contributing to the well-being of society? Like, these are all really good opportunities to explore that. Other areas that you might increase your knowledge and things that you might to really mine on your, or include on your resume, not only just generally about the things about education and social issues, but knowledge of the nonprofit sector. So depending upon where you see your career trajectory after you leave the university, having an in-depth knowledge of civil society institutions and how the NGO or the nonprofit sector function can be really, really an asset on a resume, depending upon the type of position that you're selecting. Knowing how to identify community assets, working with neighborhoods, not just looking at deficits, again, that's a skill set that you can list, or a knowledge base as well that you can list. And then this whole focus on collaboration. How do you bring diverse voices, diverse perspectives? How do you create an inclusive climate to actually execute and develop a project? Those are really, really valuable skills regardless of the role that you intend to fill once you leave your degree program. Other types of skills you may think about that very concretely may come out of some of the projects you may contribute to have to do with project management, right? Project management, again, collaboration, critical thinking and problem solving, integrating knowledge from multiple sources, and using it in unscripted context. One of the things that employers very much are interested in is not that just you've mastered an area of content, but you know how to transfer that knowledge from one domain to the next, from one project to the next, from one set of issues to the next. And the extent to which you can think about at the front end how these opportunities you have with the scholarship program enable you to transfer what you're learning from one place to another. If you think about that really intensively, it can be really, really valuable because it's a huge challenge for many when they get new college students or even if they get people with experience. That's one of the biggest challenges. If you're interested in trying to pursue a graduate program or maybe the doctorate, you may have an opportunity to contribute to a scholarly project. Now that scholarly project could be around a partnership. It could be a project about assessing student learning. It could be a research project that has a disciplinary lens on it. So it could be a public history research project. It could be a public health research project. It could be one focused on public policy and we're doing a program evaluation. Those are all things that you want to cite and include on your resume. And specifically, how did you contribute to that? What skill sets did you learn? Or alternatively, in terms of thinking about the professional development requirement, what is it that you need to learn, deepen, or expand on to really make you an asset to contributing to the particular project surrounding the scholarship? So you may go in these early conversations with your mentor, and they're scoping out what the project may be. And you may go, oh, wow, that sounds like it's going to require a lot of web development work. I don't really know much about HTML coding or creating content for the web. So you may say, hey, this is an area that I have an interest in, and I think I really need to know a little bit more about it to be effective in my role as an SLA. Maybe it's about assessing student learning or designing reflection prompts. Maybe it's about how do I present to a lay audience. Maybe that's a skill set you don't feel particularly comfortable with, but which is going to be really necessary for this particular role. So that professional development requirement is really about, skip through this for a minute, is really about what do you need to be successful, to grow in this role and contribute effectively to the project. It is not intended for you to sign up for workshops that you care nothing about, because that's not going to be helpful, right? That means it's a meaningless activity. So how you determine what those professional development activities look like, what it's going to be, is between you and your mentor, right? So at the front end, I would encourage you to think about asking them questions about what's my role here? What are you hoping to accomplish? How can I contribute to that? And then actually giving some thought to about what is it that you want to learn, right? And make your choices based on that. Now, there's a lot of different ways besides attending a workshop that you can select from. Before I show you those, I want to just make a couple of points. The question about reflecting on the activity. Historically, students have usually been asked to reflect on the activity. We do have a standard prompt, as I showed you on the website, and then submit it directly to the CSL. This year, that's not what's happening. So in conversation with your mentor, you're going to select whatever the activity is, right? And then in addition, in conversation with your mentor is going to say to you, hey, I think we'll just come in and have a meeting and talk about the activity, or they may want you to write on that activity. If they want you to write on that activity, they may have a prompt that they give you, or they may push you back to the one that we have. In either case, in either of those three cases, everything's going back to the mentor, right? If you produce a written product that is a reflection, they'll submit it for you as part of their final report. You won't submit to us. Does that make sense? Right? So all of this is about what you're doing with the mentor. So again, off the CSL website, if you click on the professional development link, and I can go back and show you that again, you'll see a set of offerings, right? So in addition to workshops or online modules that you could watch, you may want to present or attend a conference, right? Maybe that's really what's going to be effective for this. You need to connect with others who are working on this issue and build your understanding. Or maybe you're part of a project and you need to disseminate that information. So it could be a professional or interprofessional conference. Maybe as part of the contribution you're making to this project, you need to complete a lit review. that lit review in and of itself is a professional development activity, and you could use that, right? It could be issue-based, it could be methodologically based, a whole series of things. You may end up giving a presentation to a community audience, to a student audience, to a faculty audience that's associated with this project. That in itself is a professional development activity. You could be part of applying for a grant, right? Maybe you needed to engage in fundraising to host X event as part of this project. Or maybe you need to fundraise because you're working on a research project with your faculty mentor. It could be taking on more of a leadership role within the project, right? If you're contributing to an article or a newsletter or an online blog that's associated with the project, yet another example. There's lots of opportunities on and off campus. If you decide to attend a workshop, it does not need to be sponsored by the Center for Service and Learning. We do have convenings that you could be part of, but again, not a requirement. The important thing to keep in your mind is the context of what you're doing, right? What's going to be beneficial for you and what's going to be beneficial for advancing the project that you're associated with. Questions? People? Okay. Just to show you one more time. So if I go under here onto the second requirement, where'd it go? Amy, am I going blind? Oh, I think it goes here, yeah. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, it was right there in front of me. So if you just go back, sorry. Student program, component, professional activity and reflection, instructions, right? Here's those options, and under each of them there's different resources and ideas. You and your mentor may come up with other ones, right? And if your mentor decides to have you do the kind of standard prompt, it's right here. So if I click here, it gives you all the information you need, right? Deadlines, we've covered that. End of award period reporting, that would be the third item on there. Just want to quickly walk you through the reporting process. Right, so you've completed orientation and the orientation assignment. You've done the professional development activity and or reflection depending upon what your mentor has requested. If you have an academic year award, that professional development activity and or reflection, if prompted by your mentor, will occur twice, right? 2 times. Once if you have a fall-only award, once if you have a spring-only award or a summer-only award. At the end of the award period, which for all of you in the room today is going to be late April, right? May 1st is the deadline. You're going to come back to our website, click on that third requirement. The accordion will open. You'll be asked to complete a post survey, right, in an informed consent form, and then there'll be instructions there to complete your narrative reflection on your experience. There's some standard prompts that we have there. You'll be asked, you can access them there, write it all up. You'll submit the link to complete the survey, but the narrative reflection, right, the narrative goes directly to your mentor. You'll email it to your mentor. Your mentor, when they complete their report, just like with the professional development reflections, they submit your work to us, right? So the onus is on them to submit what you've produced to us, right? But the onus is on you to submit in a timely fashion to your mentors. And so the deadlines that we have listed for you for professional development reporting and for the final narrative reporting are all so that you can get it to the mentors prior to them having to complete their own reporting, because they have their own reporting deadlines. And so usually rule of thumb is your deadlines are 2 weeks prior to when their deadlines are, so that they have plenty of time to provide you feedback. Any questions? And there's an example of the deadlines up there. Okay, final tips. The biggest mistake that we see happen usually is, and again, I think this has to do with the fact that what happens with that mentoring relationship, whether it forms or not at the beginning of the semester, is that students will wait until April 15th to do their professional development activity and reflection. Not all. In the cases where you've got some really solid conversations going on between student, scholar, and mentor, there's some really, really cool stuff that happens. It's the cases where those conversations aren't happening. And so students are searching for just any activity to do to get through the requirement. Strongly encourage you not to do that. Make this a meaningful process. It's here to support you, not to just create a useless waste of time, right? I heard you guys talking earlier. You've been on campus till 9 o'clock each night. You're tired, you're busy. So make the most of these things so it serves you in the best possible way. And that makes you a better servant to the community, right? So have those conversations and make meaningful choices. We won't say no to any activity that you come up because we're assuming that you guys are having conversations with your mentors and the activities you identify are what's most meaningful for you right now as part of this project. Please do bookmark the SLA website. I swear to God, if you bookmark that one page, that's all you need. You can get to everything. You can navigate through everything there, right? It will save you time. If you have any questions, though, please don't hesitate to contact Amy or I. We'll be happy to work with you to answer your questions. If you need an extension, we know things happen. Just make sure you're staying in contact with your mentor and letting us know what's going on. The last thing, the assignment, right? You are free since we've got, how are we doing on time? 12 minutes, awesome. All right, so you're free to take a look at the assignment and work on it here. You're free to go home and work on it at home. Again, all we ask is that you try to have it done by September 12th if you're completing orientation for the fall. If you watch this presentation in the spring, obviously it's not going to need to be done by September 12th. We like to have those assignments done within the first 2 weeks of the semester, though, again, because completing that assignment is essential if you want to get that scholarship award transferred to your account. So within 2 weeks at the beginning of the semester, we like to have that done. So you can access the assignment link through this page, right? So you can bookmark that link, right? So what all I did was, if I have to go through the site, I go to Student Program Components, Student Scholar Orientation, click on that link, right? Orientation assignment. If I click on that, it opens up. You'll be asked to provide your name, a little bit of background information, and then you're going to have 3 options. This won't take a long time. You have the option to choose from either 2 readings or 1 short TED Talk. Choose one of the 3. And either read the short readings. They shouldn't take more than 15, 20 minutes. They're very short. They're from the Huffington Post by a scholar named Harry Boyd. He has a regular blog. And the third one's by Brene Brown, who's a social worker. She's a researcher. Pick one of the topics, listen to the presentation or read the article, and then respond to the questions just for that presentation or that reading. Click the submit button and you're done. All right? Is there a question? Or no, you're just like, we're hoping that there's a question. All right. And then last but not least, we just want to say thank you. Thanks for coming in today, and we wish you the best year possible, right? We're here for you. Thank you. Oh, wow. Yes. Yay. Thanks to you. Thanks. Have a great day.